All right, Her Wild Outdoors listeners, we are back with a great podcast. Jess Caldwell, I'm so excited that you're joining me tonight because we have talked about this for a while. And I do have to, I think that it would be, we would be very, I don't know, I owe this to Johnny Mac, right?
Oh, yeah. Love that guy and what he's doing. He did introduce us. That's right.
He did. Johnny, thank you. He is from the Soulful Hunter podcast, Washington Backcountry. I'm sure a lot of you guys follow him, but he's just kind-hearted and loves to have the right people with the right message be heard, whether it's on his podcast or anywhere. I think that speaks volumes about people when you're not just thinking about self, but you're thinking about the message that needs to come with it.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Thank you, Johnny. We appreciate you for connecting us. So Jess, totally. You are from the West Coast. We are talking 2 hours apart here. You are on the coast, aren't you? Did you tell me you were near the coast?
Well, I'm in near Olympia, Washington.
Yeah.
I'm more rural than Olympia, but I'm probably about an hour away from hitting coastal waters if I head west.
You are, see, I call that the coast because I'm probably in between 8 and 12 hours from the coast. So if you're within 90 minutes, I count you coastal.
Oh, yeah. And we have the South Puget Sound, we're in the South Puget Sound area. So another maybe 45 minutes away, and I can be clamming and shellfishing and
that's amazing.
Taking oysters and right from the beach. So it's a really beautiful place to live.
I heard, who was it? Somebody put up, it was kind of a funny video, even though this is not a funny situation, but when the volcano went off this weekend, you guys right there on the Sound got a tsunami warning.
Yeah, I was actually taking a course over the weekend on fishing, and I had a couple of friends text me saying, "Hey, where are you?" Because we're getting tsunami warnings here. So yeah.
I mean, it's good to be warned. I know that nothing ended up really making landfall on our coast, but definite damage elsewhere, and we're thinking of everybody involved. But I'm glad and grateful for those on our western coast near that area that it was not affected like we thought it could be.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, okay. So you and I started talking. We had a great conversation over the phone a couple of weeks ago, and it was right before Christmas. And we kind of were talking about, I don't know, it slipped into a lot of different things that really didn't have anything to do with outdoors, but that we connected on.
That's right.
But the outdoors is something that is pretty major in that connection. And you've had quite the year. You guys, 2021, what Jess decided to do, and I want you to tell your story about this, but it was actually very inspiring to me. I kind of want to go back through, I've looked at bits and pieces, but I kind of want to go back through almost throughout my year and look through your blog post each week just to find that inspiration. But tell us just a little bit about why you decided 2021 needed to be the way that it turned out to be.
Well, I'm curious how deep we'll end up going with this because it has quite a history. But I'll start with, I'll just kind of start in the most obvious place. So I was the marketing director for a performing arts center here in Washington State, and we had touring artists coming through, and it was a wonderful, beautiful nonprofit organization, and it was a great place to work. But the theater closed because of the pandemic, and I found myself out of a job. And it was also, the timing was such that I had just not too long into this had gone fishing for the first time. So I am 45 years old, And I had never been fishing before. I had even considered hunting. I had some interest in foraging and had taken an ethnobotany course a few years back, but I was probably kind of more your weekend warrior type outdoors woman, someone that was like, yeah, friend calls, let's go take a hike. Sure. Which is great stuff. But my level of involvement in the outdoors was fairly limited. And I sure was not raised with, in a family that was doing any, from hunters and anglers and from that place. But that first fishing trip, it was actually an ice fishing trip out at Lake Cascade in Idaho. And it just changed my life. It was so cold and it was stormy and exciting, and we're pulling fish out of the ice and I'm screaming and jumping and excited. And I had nothing like coming back from that and cooking up, making fish tacos out of the fish you're pulling out of the water, and your face is windburned and you're exhausted. But it just changed something in me. Something happened, and I wanted more. And from that, and this was a bit before 2021, I had taken a few more fishing trips. It really started with fishing for me. But when January 2021 hit and it was a new year, I really decided, with all that was going on with the pandemic and still me being out of a job, that I was going to take this time I had and dedicate it to learning. And I really wanted to know more. I wanted to feel more. I wanted to experience more of what nature had to offer, because I'd had this little window that gave me this exquisite taste of how nature provides and what is possible, and how I could provide a meal for my family with my own hands. And that this wasn't about a hysterical trip to Costco.
True.
To load up on food, because everyone was, going through so much with food shortages and a sense of urgency around, we don't know what's coming or what to think about our future and the food supply chain. And I just wanted more. And so I really started investigating different courses I could take. Everything from wilderness survival, more plant identification, mushroom identification. I picked up a bow. I started shooting every day. I didn't even know where I was going with this, but on January 1st of 2021, I had my first blog post that I called 52 weeks, field notes, 52 weeks of rewilding. And I really treated it like like field notes, like a biologist out there. What is this like? And what does this taste like? Because it was all new to me. So it was this great platform. Of course, this was through social media, through Instagram and Facebook, and I have the blog on my website. But I just wanted to start writing and taking pictures and sharing this journey, because it was so profound and so epic. Every single week, I chose to do one thing to learn direct living skills and to feel more just awake and more resilient and more self-sufficient. And field notes, weekly field notes exercise really kept me accountable to that goal, to that dream of saying, just do one thing and journal it and write about it and dive in all the way. And I have, and it's continued. And I've made it just a priority and a commitment to myself and to my community and to my family that we're going to do this thing, and I'm taking you along in the journey and see where it goes from there.
I love it, because I love the word rewilding, because it doesn't just apply to you not growing up like that and starting now. It actually applies to us as a generation. It applies to us as communities who have stepped away from the traditions that our ancestors had. We used to be so self-sufficient, and now you find it hard to live without a vehicle. You find it hard to live without the internet, without a connection worldwide, versus just where you are in that moment, but also in the outdoors. And I think that that's why I found it inspiring, because I found myself, even though I didn't do one thing a week, I, starting in my 30s versus in my 40s, kind of went through that process, and you fall in love with it. You get to a place where you can't live without it. It starts, it's almost like osmosis. It just filters into our skin in every single pore, and you crave more of it. And it's not, every experience isn't this mind-boggling adventure. It might be a small outdoor joy that you found, or a small skill that you maybe had not picked up beforehand. And I don't know, those small details mean so much more, because then they apply to the bigger things, and they just keep drawing you back. And so I think that that's why I felt that inspiration, because it was a little bit of a connection to where I was 10 years ago, and how I can do better as well. So thank you for that. And and I think that you're doing more for others around you, which we will get into as we talk tonight. But I love hearing how what we are going through right now in society, how it does trickle that need to have a connection to our earth, and trickle that need for being self-sustaining. And you found it through this process, but isn't it amazing how just one planned thing a week can just spearhead a whole movement? It's amazing to me, and it shouldn't surprise me, but it's still amazing to me, and I'm grateful for it for you.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I do think that this is, rewilding is such a bigger concept than I think I even knew when I found the word and felt like it resonated, because all of these things I'm experiencing from as an individual, taking on new skills and learning different things. I also, we're not as strong. One person doing this is just like a little drop in the water. And given the state and the health of our planet and communities, I just realized that this must be done together. And I have experienced trying to do it all alone. I'm a single mom. I have the help. I have a wonderful ex-husband who we have split time with our kids, but regardless, I'm home alone at night, and I've got to do dishes, and I've got to make dinner, and I got to go grocery shopping, and then I've got to work. And I also have to, for me, I got to keep learning, and I got to know what it means to be in better partnership with nature. And we were never meant to do this alone. No, one human cannot have honeybees, garden, make baskets,
right?
Know how to survive in the wilderness, hunt, fish, forage,
all of it. It's a community effort.
It is not meant for one person. It's meant for communities to do this together, and for friends and for family to do this together, and to learn together. I mean, I think we're in a time of where most people are really resonating with this message and feeling drawn to jump in and say, yep, I want to join you. I want to try that. Let's do this. And the more people join me, and the more, that this becomes more of a community project, the more I feel more at ease with a skill set within a community, that we all can come together and have this training of remembering the old ways, because people lived on the planet for a long time doing this thing right before modern conveniences, and they knew how to do all of these things. And now with urban centers being where our population lives for the most part, we're not doing that, nor can you really have 2 feet. It's very hard to have 1 foot in both worlds. Because as you mentioned, you have a car and you got to go to work and you need your pay for your internet and all of these things that means you have to work to get money to live in a modern society.
Right.
And how do you balance that with learning all these skills and then activating them, not just learning them, but activating them into your life as part of your, normal procedure of operating procedure.
Agreed.
It's really hard.
Agreed.
And
yeah,
I mean, most of your audience would probably, they're women and they're outdoorsy, they're doing cool stuff, and that struggle's real. I'm sure we can all be nodding our heads on this, that we all want to be out. We all want to be out fishing
all the time.
We all want to be out, in nature, watching the sunrise and unplugging. But there is so much duty and responsibility to that makes that balance is so hard.
Yeah.
So hard.
I was about to say it's all about balance, and it's about finding ways that these skills and these desires and these experiences infiltrate that other side, that side that you in the beginning didn't see how it could trickle into it, but now you're starting to figure out how to make that happen. Something that you said finding a certain skill set that you are really good at. Since we are in a community, I think that one of the fears is you've got to be great at everything. I think that's something that we put on ourselves as a society. You've got to be great at whatever you're doing. Well, that's hogwash.
In fact, I've made it my thing that I basically suck at all this stuff. Because I'm so new to it, I think the endearing thing where mentors have come in and people have really seen like, hey, we see your heart in this, and this isn't about doing it right or doing it well. I mean, I showed up to my first duck hunt with all the wrong equipment, the wrong shotgun. I mean, everything was off, and I have to laugh and be like, okay, well, that didn't work out. And I have so many stories like that where I just show up with the wrong gear, did the wrong thing, and I'm learning. And then, that's the only way to do it, though.
It really is. And to know where your strengths are so that you can be a part of a community where somebody else's strengths can come in and you all work together to create this community that works together and pushes each other forward in the best ways possible. I think, for me to have one skill and then another friend to have another skill and it brings us together, and it shows us, like you said, our ancestors were built on community. They say it takes a village. Well, that saying came from somewhere, and it means something more than, well, you need your girlfriends to help take care of you. It really means that you've got to put back into it too. You are a part of it, giving, not just taking. And so you've got to find your place in that community. What are you great at? If you go on a backpacking hunting trip, what are you great at? When you put it together and you plan it out and you're saying, okay, I will bring this because that is a skill set that I will bring to this group that I am really good at. It's not boasting. It's saying, okay, that takes off the pressure of somebody else who doesn't feel great at it, who would gladly say, yes, I am so glad you were great at that because I'm great at this. And you work as a team versus trying to be great at everything and being a one-man team. It's hard to do that. It's hard to stretch yourself thin. But this experience that you've had each week, without knowing and without trying all of these things, you don't know what you would be good at without trying them.
And what you're really drawn to, for sure.
Where your passion would lie. I love duck hunting, but I am really great at deer hunting. Like, I really love deer hunting and I love duck hunting, but I don't call like my friend Maggie. I don't have a great skeet shot for practicing. I am a great shot at other things. I have friends who are awesome at archery and I'm having to start back over at zero. So I lean on them and I ask them for advice. And yet a lot of people say, and this goes to your 1 year, a lot of people say, oh, you've only been doing this for 1 year. Well, you're a newbie. Why would I take advice from you? Well, as much as you put into 1 year, I'm sorry, but it's more about experience. It's more about what you have put into it and taken out. It's how you've applied yourself. You could have more experience out of this 1 year than somebody else who does it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks out of the year. And
with beginner mind, because that beginner mind, it's
you soak up so much more.
I'm not set in any kind of ways. When I have the opportunity to go out and I've been very blessed with some incredible mentors who've just taken me under their wing and said, come on, let's go out, I'll show you the ropes on this. And some wonderful teachers that have come into my life. And then I get to just be eyes wide open, listening, absorbing. And it's great to go in and one with that mindset. And something you had mentioned about backpacking with girlfriends or going out as a group and learning from one another's skills. One thing to experience is take something like a backpacking trip, but everyone, bring to the trip something new, like someone, hey, I'm going to bring my ferro rod and while we're out there, we're going to work on starting fires with a ferro rod. And hey, I just learned a couple new plants and we're going to try to find them while we're out there.
Yes.
Or, hey, I'm working on navigation. And so I want to try to apply some new things I'm learning around navigation. And it's like, if everyone, just kind of leveled up a little bit to say, let's not just do our ordinary yearly backpacking trip. Let's like take this to the next level where we're feeling even more, where everyone takes on a skill set and then shares that with the group and you're trying new things. That's a really great way to look at it too, in applying new disciplines of learning.
100%. I think that a couple of listeners would probably ask you, how did you find those 52 things each week? And did you have a plan before January 1st started, or did it kind of evolve as you go? But how did you figure out each week something to come up with to do?
Well, nature gives a lot of that.
It's so true.
Because what's awesome about learning, really truly dialing into the seasons and also looking locally. I have a unique ecosystem here in the Pacific Northwest that's unique to where I live. And so there's things, we have 4 seasons and we have things happening in those 4 seasons. And I was really paying attention to what's going on and I'd look things up and I didn't even know about the hunting seasons and I didn't know about what was growing at what time. But, starting in January, it was like, okay, so what can I do in January? And doing a little research and being like, I didn't realize I could go out and collect Douglas fir pitch right off the trees and turn that into a healing salve, and I would just take on something that was like, well, that's cool. Let's try it. And really nature is so cyclical and has such a rhythm of what's being offered seasonally and in your local area. It's going to be different, but it's actually clockwork.
Yeah.
It's, and what's cool to learn that the rhythm is that that really helps guide where to place your energy at certain times of the year. And it's really helped me become, I think, a healthier human in mind, body, and spirit, to be more in tune with the natural rhythms and timing of what's going on. When in the spring, it was like, oh, this is when nettles are popping up. this is nettles harvesting season. And, but then following that plant all the way through, it has phases. And actually, let me give you a different example. Dandelion in this, you can eat the leaf, you can eat the flower.
All of it.
In the summer, we were popping off those big, yellow, beautiful tops and making fritters out of them. And then in the, when the season's changing and the energy goes out of the flower and into the root, now you can harvest the root and make dandelion tea or medicine. So everything has this season. I find it amazing that nettles are just they're just coming to life and new life and new growth right during allergy season. When the pollen is kicked up and people are experiencing allergies, there's the nettle leaf, and you can harvest that, and that is a direct, kind of medicinal quality for allergies. So it's just starting to pay attention. And I got some great books. I started getting different books on things, and I took I'm following what other people are doing. If I see someone online doing something, I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. So I follow people who are doing the outdoor lifestyle. And then I take courses. I started taking a lot of courses. Anything I could that interested me, I took a course on it.
I think that's where we learn what we crave, whether it's the pandemic pushing us into a craving for community, which I think it has. I think that it pushes us toward learning something, learning a craft, learning a skill, getting back into nature, hunting, fishing, getting back to some of our basic roots. But I think that instead of thinking so negatively about the society that we're living, the time that we're living in right now, being able to find the light in it, being able to find where it's pushing me to, what are my choices? How am I going to take what is going on and find a positive in it? How am I going to grow myself? And I think that that's a basic human nature in us all, but it is kind of like that fight or flight, right?
Yeah, interesting. I feel very strongly that I love that I'm alive right now at this time. I mean, as much as I have nostalgia for the past and I look back at how our ancestors were living, and to me, that just brings up all sorts of good feelings and this sense of wanting to see it or experience it. I happen to be alive now. This is my time.
Right.
And so I am uniquely here at this time in this most incredible amount of change that's happening on all fronts. And so I feel like we get to be a part of this fascinating time in history, and we get to carve the way of how we're up against the metaverse. I just got introduced to the metaverse. That is like totally like what? I mean, I just found out there is so much money being spent in a thing called the metaverse, where people are buying property and yachts and things that live in the web, that live in the matrix. They're not even of this world. And I saw, I was having this wild ride in my brain going, that is absolutely incredible. And then I happened to see someone make a funny post about, hey, I'm now offering rewilding courses in the metaverse. You can go take a class in, goat cheese making.
I love it.
I was like, oh, wow. And, I mean, this is a fascinating time. I'm glad we're here right now.
I am too. Yeah. I think you also said, living in a moment during each of the phases of the year. You hear chefs say that all the time. You hear you need to eat according to the time of the year, eat your vegetables according to the time of the year, eat fresh, we can and we can keep from our gardens, But there are certain things throughout, if you're a gardener, there are certain things that you do grow in more of the fall and winter and in the spring and in the summer, and kind of keep to those seasons. Why wouldn't we do life that way? Why wouldn't we stick to, I don't know, if we lost all electricity and all form of society today, that's what we would have to do. And so getting in that rhythm of, okay, what is going on now? Like you said, what would grow now? What would I need to take in to get the nutrients that I would need? What do I need to save from the summer and the spring in order to get the nutrients that I need? But what can I do right now to prepare for that?
I'm more and more interested in this aspect of rewilding, because this to me really gets me excited that I would, if I were to just say, hey, this is what I'm doing right now, I'm just throwing this out there. Could be a really cool experience or experiment for other households to try out. Mm-hmm. But I'm actually trying to get a little bit away from buying things like avocados. I love avocados. And if I go out to a really great restaurant that offers an amazing guacamole, I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to just like making some different style choices to live more seasonally and live more locally, I'm really interested in, okay, there's plenty of forms of vitamin C and magnesium. There's so much around me that doesn't require me ordering lemons from California or Mexico.
Right.
I can go out and cut off a bunch of, just snip some Douglas fir pine needles, and I can put that and seep that, and I've got a load of vitamin C coming in my way. And so I'm really wanting to explore how to fulfill nutrient needs here around me. And because that is very exciting to me. I'm always thinking about things that could happen if society was not intact, the way we wake up every morning and think, I know exactly how today's going to go, and I'm going to go to the grocery store and buy all my oranges and my this and my that. And we could wake up any morning and that's not available to us.
Well, what would you do if you couldn't get your vitamins, or if you couldn't get your medications at the store? If you couldn't just walk in and go, okay, I want my iron, I want my vitamin C, I want my probiotics, what if you couldn't do that? Where would you get it? And that's where the foraging class comes in handy. That's where learning about what is around you in your neck of the woods, how could you pull from that? What would look familiar? What would poison you? What would make you worse? But being familiar with that, so that not necessarily even in a prepping situation, but in a self-knowledge, that we have gotten away from any kind of self-sufficiency at all. We are so dependent on so many things, not necessarily people, but so many things. And and it's kind of sad that
it is, and that is the nature of modern reality in living in urban centers. This, for the majority of people on the planet, living in a urban center, the reality is we would not be well set up for a cataclysmic event of any kind.
No.
And I think it is important to have at least, start with a 2-week supply of just medicines, things you need, food. Have some things. Have some things so you can be at ease and make it through a rough patch, no matter what that is.
Correct.
Even if that's just bad storm and power's out for 2 weeks. We've all experienced that. So those things are great. And then in the meantime, start to learn these things, because I could get really overwhelmed really fast if I had to think, if it was all shut down tomorrow.
Correct.
And I'm now relying on myself to do it all and find food 4 seasons, as much as I've done, I would still be like, dang, I don't know enough. I don't have enough skill set here. And that's really where community starts to come in. Doing this with your neighbors. I think I'm a huge proponent to, even if you live rural, or in a city, go meet your neighbors and, invite them out, have a gathering and talk about these things together. I think it's really important to get to know who your neighbors are and know what, interests they have in this. And if they're open to working together to create a plan together of, hey, what if we don't have power for a while? And maybe you have a neighbor who's elderly who needs someone to come check on them.
Right.
Maybe you have, a woman with 2 young kids and just, she would appreciate it if she knew she had a neighbor that would check on her. If she was at work and there was an earthquake. That's a very real situation here in the Pacific Northwest.
Right.
We've always been expecting the big one. I know my kid goes to school, or sometimes I work a half hour, 45 minutes away from home. And they're, older and they're home alone a lot. And I would sure feel better knowing that I had made a plan with neighbor that someone would come check on my household if I wasn't there.
Correct. Yeah. No, it's about, I don't know, there's a little bit of wherever I've moved, I just make a thing of cinnamon rolls. People know that I am known for my cinnamon rolls, and it is not a secret that my listeners understand that bacon and cinnamon rolls are kind of my favorite things, my guilty pleasures, but it's something that I can utilize in opening a door for somebody either moving in or me moving in. It's just a way to connect. But like you said, there's a bit of me giving myself, and then there's a bit of, I'm giving not because I'm expecting to receive, but I'm hoping to receive. Whether it is that check-in, or it is that knowing that person next door is there. And I think it goes both ways on both sides of that coin, but it isn't all selfish. You are giving, you are earning trust, you are earning respect, and a friendship, hopefully.
Yeah. And, I was just actually listening to, I don't even know what I was listening to, some podcast earlier today. And the conversation was around how people the only people you probably call anymore, just cold call, is like a parent or a child or a best friend. Other than that, you don't just pick up the phone and call people anymore. Like, that's almost not a courtesy, because it's like, you text first. You're like, hey, are you open for a call? Or are you busy in a few? Or you're same thing. People don't just show up at people's doors anymore. I mean, that used to be the only way to do things.
Correct. You never knew.
And say hello, and that kind of community feeling was in place. And I do think it's part of our more isolating way of doing things, that we are becoming more and more introverted socially, and our time is so very valuable, because we live in a time where we work 8 hours a day, and it's very impossible to be too terribly social. So these are different times. We don't. That is a unique thing, that we don't just pick up the phone and call either.
It's purposeful. There is purpose in it, and it is going outside of your way to make time. And I think that that's where that trust and respect come in hand. I'm watching my time, and I wanted to ask, how and when in 2021 did it switch from just the outdoors and foraging and figuring, when did hunting come into it? You said that you picked up a bow. But I'm very interested in, you said duck hunting, and there have been some things that we've talked about outside of this podcast. But I think that since it has infiltrated your whole year, when did it step into it, and when did it grow?
Well, thank you. Yeah, good question. I know that at some point there wasn't a way around that hunting was a vital part of food gathering. I mean, there was just it's like hand in hand,
right?
If that's important to me, this I'm up against this right in my face. Like, well, you better know how to, figure out how to eat more than just like plants, because I'm a meat eater.
Yeah.
And so I know I was really fascinated with, I really love the bow. I mean, I loved it at first. It was really target practice and a version of I would say, mindfulness training.
Yes.
To me, it was like meditation and movement. And I was someone who taught mindfulness courses to youth, middle school kids, and yoga classes to middle school kids for many years. And this was like this new element where I could channel my focus into shooting a bow. And it was such for me, it's meditation. I just absolutely love what I can get out of a session of shooting. So from there, though, I knew that I was gaining just a sense of confidence in my shot, and I was like, okay, it's time to take Hunter's Ed course, which I did, and that was not easy, by the way. That's a download that I was like, it took me a long time to get through that, actually. But when and then I had a mentor. I have a wonderful mentor who's my archery trainer, Joel Turner, Shot IQ. He has a wonderful program on overcoming just some of the finding a brain pathway around shooting. And luckily he lives near me, and I found him, and he really helped me be like, okay, girl, you've been through your Hunter's Ed. He let me know it's time. You got to get online, and you got to buy your license. You got to get tags. You got to do all this stuff. And I needed mentorship. If I was just doing that on my own, I wouldn't have a clue of how to navigate that process. So if you're new to hunting or considering getting into hunting, definitely reach out to your friends who are hunting and who are hunters and get help. Ask them what the schedule is, when you should be going in and purchasing your licenses, and really hunters love to talk about this. They're so helpful. They're the most helpful, thoughtful. I've had such a great experience with people who are so welcoming as I've entered this world, and they want to help, and they want to see me having a good hunting season. So they keep me on track. And so once those things were in place, then it was really about gearing up for deer season. And I had an early season archery tag, and I was, and actually, let me step back. For me, it's hunting started, with fish, or actually I should say before that, it started with clamming and shellfish. Okay. Then it was fishing. Okay. And then, actually I went hunting for bullfrogs. Here in Washington State.
No way.
It's considered an invasive species. And so I had the opportunity to go out in little kayaks at dark in July and put on a headlamp and with a blow gun and hunt bullfrogs. And this actually really helps out. It's good to hunt those things. And here's a free food source, like this is, you don't need a tag for that. You don't need a license for that. These are, like I said, these are invasive species. So I got bullfrog, and I made frog legs for my kids, and so that was kind of the next step. And then it's like this, little bits at a time, trying new things. What food can I bring in? What wild food can I bring in? And then it was deer season. And I did a lot of time on my own, hiking around, actually on my ex-husband's property.
Yeah.
He has like 150 acres. And I was like, hey, can I hunt your land?
It works.
He's like, who even is this woman?
Yes.
And so, I spent a lot of time out with just hiking around and exploring and stalking. And I did a lot of things wrong. I mean, I was so awkward with it. I had kind of a moment where I was out there in all this camo, and I had all this gear because everyone's telling me to do this and that. And I was out there just not, scaring away everything. And I had kind of a meltdown where I came home and I was like, I can't stay on this camo. I feel like a dude out here trying to do a dude's thing. Like, because all of my mentors were men.
Yeah.
I didn't have any women mentors.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm going to make myself a wool skirt and I'm going to come out here with braid my hair and like, I'm going to do it my way tomorrow. Cause it's like, I just feel like, I went through this weird personal, just kind of, who am I? And
right.
what am I doing? And am I doing this like a man would do it? Or is there a way I could do this? Because we're so different, men and women.
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that. I think every woman who enters into this field specifically goes through that feeling. You are not alone in feeling that. You are not alone. Yeah. It is, I went through it because I was the same way, male mentor. I did a whole lot of things on my own, hunted on my own from the beginning. And it just, the things that I was taught, there were some things that worked, but there were a lot of things that didn't because I'm not built like they are. And I had to figure out how it was going to work for me.
Absolutely. And we're different beings. We have intuition and we have feeling and we have emotion and we have, not that men don't, but we have a heightened version of that. We have a different brain pathway. We work on a multi-lane highway. We've got lots going on. And so I was trying to find a way to really explore this for myself of, okay, aside from all the beautiful opportunities men have given me through mentorship and guidance, which I so appreciate, it's okay to do this, take all of that knowledge and turn it into my own experience and do it my way. Yeah. Whatever that is, get to grow with it, get to experiment with it. And I find that I feel better in my feminine when I'm activated in my feminine energy.
That confidence.
And, it just makes me okay. Like, this is me. This is, so that was an interesting piece to my journey with just exploring this and how I'm going to do it, how it's going to roll out. And then later at late season archery, I had an opportunity. I was invited out with my archery trainer it was a blind, but he had a blind set up and he said, like, hey, let's come out and let's do this. You've been practicing on your bow. It's time to harvest a deer. I was getting down to where I only had a few more days or, not much time left in the season. And I was like, all right, this is about food harvesting for me. This is important. And so it was so cool. I took some shots before we went out there. He was like, you're shooting good. Let's get in the blind. And we were in the blind and I had just such a interesting experience of, the deer came in and at first it was almost like an out of body experience. I felt my body just, all of a sudden my heart rate just launched. Everything went, whoa, like, wow. And I could observe it all. Like, wow, look at that. Wow, Jess. Whoa, what's happening over there? What's happening here? I was like, what are you doing? And I only had time to take really like 2 powerful breaths, like 2 strong, full breaths to say. And I have a mantra that I work with, like something to just immediately calm me and to kind of put me in the zone. That's what that practice is for. That's why this is a meditation. And then my trainer, Joel, who's so brilliant, he just said, now do your job. Yeah. And it was such a powerful thing for him to say, because I knew what he meant by that, this isn't about now analyzing, how is this going to feel? What is this going to do? Like now I got to get out of my woman brain and into my hunting brain, which it has a job and it has an A and a B and a C. And I follow the path and I know that, and now I got to get analytical to the process. And get into that mind. And I did. And it was a successful shot. And it was, right after that, it all came back shaking, uncontrollable shaking, uncontrollable and excitement. I wasn't like, oh, I just took an animal's life. I was like, oh, I had a successful shot. Yeah. And that's we know as hunters, that is very important, that it wasn't, I knew I had what I was there to do.
Yeah.
I had already gone through the emotional process. In fact, the first time I ever even had emotion or crying over this whole process of hunting was when I took my field tips off of my arrows and I screwed on the broadheads. And I was like, wow, this just went from target practice to a lethal weapon.
Yeah.
And it got me. And I felt a lot of emotion, but in the moment, and when I knew that was a good shot, I knew I had done my job right. Then it was like, okay, now this feels good. And it was a huge high. It was an incredible moment. Doesn't mean I didn't have that time where I could put my hands on the deer and thank it and connect and feel, but it wasn't what I thought. Some people, they have their first shot and everyone has a different reaction,
And there's no wrong reaction.
Okay. That's right. It's all okay.
It's all okay. I do love how you said that about that feeling of going from something that is not lethal. Well, it could be lethal, but from something that was there for practice to intentionally lethal. And there is that moment. I think for me, that moment doesn't spell a lack of confidence in my plan. It's more a question of, can I take a good shot? Can I take a shot that is what our hope is, that it is the good shot that respects the animal, that respects our training, that it's more of a fear of doing it wrong or messing up, not a sadness in what my plan is. It's just a weird, I don't know, but it's almost, I still feel that way. And when I'm preparing for a hunt, I'm changing from a passive role to an active role in that plan. It's all of a sudden going from practice to implementing all of that practice in a lethal way. And it is something that you kind of have to prepare yourself and prepare others for when you are walking alongside of them, that it's okay to feel those feelings. It's okay to process them. It's okay to not take a shot if you're not ready for that. And I think that's an important thing. If you're mentoring someone, if you're walking somebody through that, or even if you yourself are walking through it, it's okay to feel those feelings. It's okay for them to be different than somebody else. Just remember to process through it and to process through all of it before making any future decisions.
Well, and that's really for everything we're doing here from in our creating lifestyle design around the here and now of what's important to us, being ourselves. And that it just always comes back to what's true to me, what's true to right now, what's true to my feelings, what's true to, because we're all just kind of creating, the life we're wanting to live and doing it in our way. And that's to be celebrated.
Oh, yeah. And you and I have kind of talked about it, how there's a multi-part to all of this. There is, like you were talking about, the meditation part of archery. Whether it's through archery, whether it's through hiking, whether it's foraging, whatever it is that brings out that self-care part of it, that taking it back to a basic step in a way that you can walk through it with a mantra or with meditation or prayer, whatever would work for you, that is huge. But we've also kind of touched on that being sufficient, being kind of progressing in our learning and continuing with that so that we can grow our knowledge base in a way that can be applied almost daily. I mean, that is the goal, that we can infiltrate all of this knowledge into our daily use. I don't know. I think it's just to go through and to think about. So everybody, you're just going to have to go see the blog and read it and see this 1 year journey that is continuing. to kind of see how much growth has happened. And it's very interesting. Like I said, I want to go through week by week and see how much you grew in your writing, how much you grew in your detail, how much emotion came through, how at times were you able to be still in those moments. Like there's a great learning path, like you said. There are people that you have learned from. Well, other people can come to you and learn. And that was what I kind of wanted to lean into in this last little part of our conversation, because you have kind of grown this in a way that other people can be included, whether it's through you specifically or through other ways that you have found for people to be involved. So I want to be able to talk about that in this space too. So tell us a little bit about how you have included other people in this journey of yours.
Yeah, so cool. So I did somewhere in this last year, I started a website called Wildkind Academy. And really what I wanted to do is take all these, I had so many people asking me about courses and how I was doing what I was doing, that I was like, well, maybe I should just create a platform like an academy of learning. And so where that began is I just started reaching out to the people who taught me, instructors who I've leaned into, and I've said, hey, would you be willing to teach a course for Wildkind Academy, so other people can do what I have done. Mm-hmm. And so there's if you go to the wildkindacademy.com, a couple things. You can look at my, definitely sign up for the newsletter there, mm-hmm. because that's a way to find out what courses are coming out and opportunities that are happening. Some of these opportunities are online and can be done from wherever you live. And some of these are here in Washington State. We're also going to be having classes in Oregon and Idaho. I've got some plans for that. So subscribing is a great idea. My blog is on the website. I think the last tab you could click on is like media or something. And then you can go to the Field Notes blog there, where the 52 weeks of rewilding is all documented there. Mm-hmm. Now it is fairly short writing because I only wrote what I could post on an Instagram post.
Correct.
So these aren't, these are just short little,
they're excerpts.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So that's a great way to check out
I foresee a book with more detail coming in the future. Please.
Yes, I definitely would like to do that, and like to create that, because it's worth writing mm-hmm. about and having something more comprehensive mm-hmm. that other people can also take and work with.
I agree.
And so the kind of courses so far, I mean, if I'm interested in it from a rewilding aspect, I'm bringing it. And so far we've had shellfish and foraging. We've got one coming up in April here in Hood Canal, Washington. We've got basket weaving. I have all sorts of basket weaving classes every month. And I bring in wonderful instructors who are masters at their trade. Karen Sherwood worked for Tom Brown Jr. and has been a leader in outdoor education. And she teaches both our basket weaving classes and foraging classes. So this next month she's coming and we'll be doing a forage walk through the forest. I've done intro to fish tanning. Ooh, that one's actually coming up, and it will be an online course with Janny Chang. She is an incredible leader for doing and teaching and this skill. Really turning, if you're an angler and you fish, this is a great way to use the whole fish and turn that skin into leather for all sorts of projects. It's the original waterproofing.
When is that class?
That is January. It's a 2-part class. It takes place in the evening for just like an hour and a half on January 27th. And then it's a great science project, awesome for homeschoolers or just families with kids mm-hmm. or just people like me who are like, I want to learn how to make leather out of the fish that I catch, because every day you're moving, you're creating tannins that this is soaking in from tea, and you're turning it. And it's a great science project. And at the end, we meet again on February 3rd for just about an hour and a half, and we complete the project.
Okay.
And we're kind of massaging it out with oil. So that's happening. I've got an elk hide drum making course coming, bow making, intro to archery, wilderness survival again. We're doing an emergency preparedness class with Nathan Donnelly, who was on season 6 alone and did really well. The wilderness survival course is taught by Joel Vanderloon from season 7 alone. Mm-hmm. And we've done fire school, which I had Ray Livingston from season 6 alone. For some reason, all these alone, I've somehow made these wonderful connections because they either live close to me or were kindred spirits. But these guys have lived out, out in Alaska or in the middle, they've been dropped off and have survived, and they've got great stuff. I've reached out to some women too, but I just haven't, it hasn't worked out for connection yet. So as soon as I can, then, I can't wait.
I've got a connection for you. I will hook you guys up. But good. No, if you think about it, they have had to prepare in a multifaceted way for an event that all of these things could be applied to. So it makes total sense.
Yeah. To me, they're like the ultimate, of self.
They're the textbook.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of went that channel. And so I have live classes, which has been a huge, awesome, fun community building event. And then I'm also working now on launching the online academy, in which I will be offering a course here that I'm building right now that is a Field Notes 52 weeks of rewilding course that others could do for an online kind of, I know we don't really want to be online, but it's just kind of like a guide. It's a field guide to get out and do. And then I'll be offering other courses as well online as this builds. Like I said, I'm kind of a one-woman show right now. So it's a little bit of a slow build, but it's coming together.
I think when somebody has the passion and the determination, the resilience to keep trying and a purpose, I think that it's really, really, really hard to fail. So I'm definitely rooting for you. I'm sure that the women who will be listening to this will be wanting to be involved. I think one of the things that I have taken away from a lot of the conversations that I've had with women is, like you and me, they've been surrounded by a community of men, which have been helpful and have been a great, like I would never put them down ever. But within driving radius, it's hard to find other women to learn from and to have community in the outdoors with. So sometimes these online classes are a way to connect to other women or a way to learn from other women when you're in a community that does not harbor that. And so I see the value in it, but I also see a future in it for building that community.
Yes, totally. Mm-hmm. And there's actually an upcoming opportunity. I'll be going to Texas with Joel Vanderloon in February. And so if anyone hears this and interested, reach out to me or him. But he through Instagram. And because it's not through my website, this is something he put together, but it's an intro to hunting. And we'll be hunting for wild hog on private land, camping. We'll be learning bushcraft from him and also having the opportunity to really get into the mind of the hunter with hands-on experience of processing the animal and the whole 9 yards. So this is coming up in February. And again, if anyone hears this, there's one spot open that might be a great, if someone's listening is like, well, that's for me. Let us know. People can find me on Instagram. It's Jess _Wild Kind Academy.
Yes.
So that's a way to link up through Instagram. And then, of course, the website.
Yes. I'm glad that you said that. I was about to ask it. So you guys go follow Jess. Definitely look up the blog and definitely go to the website and get on that newsletter. I think that there are awesome opportunities, not just to support you, but to support that community that we're trying to build and encourage learning. I mean, there is so much. I read the other day, the first 20 hours of learning a new skill, you take on more information than any of the other time after those 20 hours. That it is multitudes of information that come in that you're able to utilize within that short amount of time. So,
wow, that's fascinating.
It is so fascinating. Our brain is the most amazing tool that I don't think we would ever even tap into an nth of a degree of how much we could use. And so just remember those first 20 hours, it's less than a day of just taking in. I'm not saying that, I'm talking about 20 hours of specific, detail-oriented absorption of things. Your brain is soaking it up like a child, like a toddler, taking on all that information. So utilize those first 20 hours of learning a skill so that you can grow it as fast as you can.
And then also just don't get overwhelmed with all this stuff. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Do it with friends. Have fun with it. Mm-hmm. Take pictures of it. Write about it, write your own field notes, post about it, have fun, get engaged with it. I mean, I've built community around this, and it's been a good ride. And I know a lot more than I did a year ago if I hadn't done anything.
Well, and think about in the time span that a lot of people are feeling lonely, who are feeling isolated, you have built community. And so if you are in a situation where you feel like you have become more introverted and you need to step out, or you feel very lonely, this is a place to grow. This is a safe place to feel community. And I don't know.
Yeah, I just real quick, when I first did my first basket when Wild Kind Academy had our first basket weaving course, and it was it was still kind of in the heart of the pandemic. I mean, well, we're still in it, but I mean, it was the isolation was real. Yeah. And I had this at an outdoor venue at a park. And but we were in this historic site with picnic benches, and it was a full class, and people came, and we listened to music, and all these women, 12 women, were together laughing and weaving and working with our hands and telling stories. And at the end of that, a woman who I had never met before came up to me, and she just said, you just don't know how much I needed this. And I needed people, and I needed laughter. And she's like, do you mind if I give you a hug? Like, do you hug? And I was like, oh yeah. I'm like, bring it in. Like, it was just like, yeah, we're going to hug. And that hug, there was tears, and it was so special. And I because I've been having live events all year, and it's been very important to people. The people who come, some come in masks. Some are not feeling it's like everything's happened. Right? Yeah. I've had a whole gamut, and everyone is welcome, and everyone is honored for where they're at. It's a safe place to be, and if you want a hug, you're going to get a hug.
I love that. I love that, because we need it. We need that physical connection. We need the conversation, and we need the laughter. We just need it. Our bodies need it. We need joy. So I think the outdoors is the most healing part of our world. And to build a community within it is very, very special. And it's one to protect. So, Jess, thank you. Thank you for this conversation. I am walking away blessed by it, and educated and excited. And I hope that our listeners are feeling the same way, because I think that is something that we strive for, is that connection. And so thank you, Jess.
Yeah, that's the nature of our beings. That's our wild side, is how we relate and connect to one another. That's why rewilding is a much bigger concept than just a return to nature. It's return to people and ourselves and community. It's a big concept. So this is what it's all about. And Amy, thank you for having me on your podcast and sharing this story with with everyone, and I love what you're doing. You're such a light in this world of sunshine and connectivity. So thanks for doing the great work.
Of course.